Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. We are going to be getting started very shortly, directly into the semifinals of today's tournament hosted by the GGX clan, and Wenin specifically, the one who invited me to cast today. So big shout out to him, big shout out to GGX for hosting. We've got a land battle tournament for you all. So we're going to be getting started very shortly. Like I said, we're jumping straight into the semifinals. I don't have a nice bracket to show you guys today. Shameful display and all that, but I do at least have a scoreboard. Keep track of where we're at. Got Void Lols versus Caradoc here, and they're just getting their faction picks locked in. Hopefully y'all are doing well today. A little bit of a stream action. All is mostly well, Steven. I haven't had as much time or energy as I would have liked to record videos lately for you guys. I was going to try and keep that 2 videos a day pace up, you know, as long as I could, but unfortunately just haven't had the time or energy lately too. So, you know, we're going to get back to it as soon as I can. I do enjoy both domination and land battles, so I want to be able to showcase both, definitely. So I'll try and keep it going, but yeah, get started very, very shortly. Posting the stream around to some different places. Okay. And looking good there. Hello, hello, and welcome. Good to see you all. Any of you guys who are watching after the fact, those of you here live, of course, should be a great time. Definitely a good time. Right now we've got dwarfs versus vampire accounts, which should be very interesting in land battles. Vampire accounts definitely not as strong as they were before, but still fairly potent. I mean, we'll see what these guys have got. EM clan members facing off. Void Lols I have seen play quite a bit over the years. He's definitely a very solid player. Very scary to play against. Caradoc I'm less familiar with. He seems a little bit newer, but I have seen him playing in some land battle tournaments recently and doing quite well. I think in the Human Boys land battle tournament I hosted about a week or two ago, he also did quite well in that contest. So we'll be looking forward to seeing these Titans clash here. Do be like that sometimes, yeah. And I haven't really talked that much publicly on the channel about it, but my beloved fiance, the love of my life, had a major jaw surgery like a month and a half ago. She's doing fine. I mean, it's a long story, but she's doing well. But helping to take care of her and kind of having to take some extra time away, I haven't been able to do quite as much as I would have liked. I'm still pretty happy that I've been able to maintain a consistent pace of content. Pretty much haven't missed any days, and like, I mean, her surgery was literally like 4 or 5 days before the release of Immortal Empires and the Champions of Chaos DLC to the public, so it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride, certainly, but we managed to keep it going. But hey, Wenin, the man himself, host for today's tournament, the organizer, big shout out to him for putting this together. And I'm happy to be here. Definitely happy to be here. A little bit of practice casting here. Recorded a couple games about an hour ago just to get back in the flow of things. But we'll see how it goes. Drink a beer and watch some fantasy armies destroy each other. Sounds like a great time. I was actually talking with someone recently about this. How, you know, actually, American football and Warhammer have a lot in common when you stop and think about it. Certainly enjoying both with a beer is something that I would do. Yeah, life takes precedence for sure, for sure. But we're all doing good. Doing good. So let's get in here. I see already Thorek Ironbrow makes a lot of sense. We've got some Ironbreakers, Grumbling Guard here. I don't know that you necessarily need the Grumbling Guard for the Vigor refresh anymore, considering that Thorek can take it the, what is it, Rune of Hearth and Home, but maybe you want to stack the two together? Not really sure. I mean, I think they're both 5% Vigor per second, which is probably overkill. No, if it's even possible for dwarfs to use that much, but let's see. He's got 3 Thunderers as well. Could be tricky to protect, especially with the cannon. There's a lot of missile units to protect against vampire counts, who are notoriously very good at compromising missile units, but let's see what they can do here. On the Vampire Count's side, he's got just a regular stock Vampire Lord. Very interesting. On the Zombie Dragon, he does have Charmed Shield, which is going to give him missile block chance and damage resistance. It is quite a nice item. Relatively low cooldown as well. Short uptime, but still quite useful. Of course, Breath Attack. It also comes with Swarm of Flies. The Zombie Dragon does. He's got Invocation Heck, Raise Dead, Graveguard with Grapens, a couple of them in the center. Yep, 3 of them in a backline. Sternsmen as well. Zombies up front. We've got a couple of Crypt Horrors with a couple of Corpse Carts. These are non-unholy Lodestone, but again, just perfect vigor in an AoE, essentially. Only 1% vigor per second means they can actually drain if they're... I mean, I guess they don't really have missile attacks, so maybe not, but a couple of our guys up in the air as well. So, looking good. Just double checking. I don't have like a weird screen blocker or anything up there. And we are off to the races. At least momentarily. Both players kind of taking their time to get organized here. Vargeist regularly don't have Vanguard. The Regiment of Renown does. Also causes terror, which makes it quite good in domination, but here the dwarfs have a pretty nice position. There are direwolves in each corner who can potentially run in and try and disrupt this cannon. The cannon initially is gonna not quite have a bead there. I don't think. It could potentially actually... I think it could actually fire and hit these Vargeist potentially. It's right on the edge of their range, so... we'll see. So far, Caradoc's taking a nice wide stance out in the open here. He has some little terrain blockers to help him try and defend this cannon, but Voidlul's lurking with his direwolves. And definitely going to be just trying to outmaneuver this slower dwarven infantry, but nice protection there from Caradoc. Oh! And just a tiny bit of mispositioning there. That dwarf cannon crew gets eaten up in a big hurry, but will they be able to screen through the Slayers, protecting enough of their unit models so that the unit can actually survive? Potentially. There is a whole second unit of direwolves just kind of lurking here, so... I mean, there's still 23, 22 crew members left. They definitely have enough to get back on their cannons and continue contributing, but let's see. Yeah, one direwolf just straight up gone. The other direwolf lurking now. Doesn't want to necessarily just sacrifice itself outright. But the cannon crew is going to get back on. They certainly will have enough, let's see, yeah, to crew all 4. So you need 12 crewmen to crew all 4 because it's 3 each, right? So definitely have enough. Crew all of them. Going to be opening up immediately on the Vampire Lord. Would be probably the best target. I mean, you can tear away models from the Crypt Horrors and the Vargeist, certainly, but also, obviously, they can heal their models back. So, even though normally I would say it's much better to just pick away at the multi-model units, you can actually reduce their killing power by killing their models. But here, it's tough to say. Crypt Horrors are definitely going to be a very dangerous unit, so maybe you do want to focus them, but at the same time, certainly the Vampire Lord's the most expensive and most valuable. But anyway, yes, Sarmatian land battles, indeed. Land battle tournaments. There have been quite a few land battle tournaments happening, actually, which is something I enjoy quite a bit. I enjoy both game modes, so good that we have representation for both. And I'm still deciding. I want to probably host my South Sea Mercenary League like inaugural Immortal Empire season once we get 2.2 released. I've kind of been waiting on that to really host a lot of my own events because of not necessarily being totally enamored with the balanced state right now. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things that need addressing, and I do think that 2.2 will make some pretty necessary changes and bring the meta into a fairly decent, stable place. I mean, we'll see if Cathay gets any nerfs for land battles potentially, or, you know, like, anyway, there's a lot of things that they could potentially do, but we'll see. I think, depending on how 2.2 looks, I probably will announce a season of the South Sea Mercenary League starting in October and then running into kind of early November. We'll see, but Cannon is starting to line up some shots here, take models off of the Sternsmen, which again, It's pretty decent. Another relatively high value target that it's going to be tough for the dwarfs to kill here, but I'm just kind of concerned in general. Looks like we also missed a nice dragon breath attack, side-shotting through those longbeards. Killed a whole bunch of models there, but I just am worried that once this undead army gets into contact here, they're not going to be able to protect, the dwarfs won't be able to protect their ranged units. They just don't have enough melee. And besides that, I mean, Varguys can just come in here and smash some Thunderers. There's not a lot the dwarfs can do to stop this, unfortunately, so we'll admire the sunset and the blonde mohawks of these Varguys as they smash in here, and it is a brutal time for those Thunderers, both units. I mean, I guess this one's doing an okay job. They've got some Longbeards in there as support. Zombie summons also kind of force the cannon out of position, and it just gets eaten by Direwolves there, so this can be a matchup which dwarfs can do a decent enough job in, but it can be tough. I would say Trollhammer Torpedoes probably would have been a pretty good add here as well, potentially. I'm not sure, to be honest. It's been a while since I played this matchup from the dwarfs side, but right now in the front line, the Ironbreakers should be able to hold out for quite some time. They also did some fairly solid damage with those blasting charges, but I mean, we've got Graveguards, Griffins, like hundreds of them coming in to just fight and grind at melee, and we'll see with the Corpse Guard support, they might be able to grind down those, yeah, it looks like the Cryptor is kind of pushing through, almost going to get a full surround there on those Ironbreakers, which is really not great, obviously. Thunder is also getting broken there, getting broken here. This unit also getting chased off, and the cannon's done. So that's what I'm saying. It's tough to protect these ranged units against vampire counts. Sometimes it can be better to just go with an all melee build. Like, even Hammerers potentially might be a decent enough pick in this matchup to warrant taking them. Hard to say. But right now we've got a big old rune of speed here, increasing the melee attack of these Ironbreakers, and the Equorn's Miners. A brutal side shot breath attack, though, through Norgrimling's Ironbreakers. Doesn't do as much damage as it potentially could have, but it did do quite a bit of damage, it must be said. Slayer's also just kind of hanging around the back for now. Let's see, right now the grind, I would say the balance of power is true, and that it's maybe slightly in the vampire count's favor. It's just going to be tough for the Dowie to output enough damage to deal with all of these units, and like these Ironbreakers, I'm not really sure what's going on with their pathing or attack order, but yeah. I would agree, AC Maiden. Even though the patch pace maybe isn't as fast as some of us would like, I still am pretty happy with the fact that we've already got I mean, we're only a couple of months out, like, yeah, 6 weeks out from the release of Immortal Empires, right? If I'm doing my math right, something like that. And we've already got a couple of balance patches, like one out and hotfixed, and another one coming. I mean, granted, Creative Assembly did screw up a lot of stuff and then had to release the hotfix for, you know, crashes and whatnot, but still, looks like we got a Rune of Doom going off, map-wide melee attack buff. Also gives fear for the dwarf units that aren't immune to psychology, so they can resist the fear of the undead, but looking pretty rough right now. Not really looking great as far as the melee grind goes. Just too much bodies, too many HP. The regenerating crypt horrors especially are just so hard to deal with for the dwarfs. So I think this is probably going to be Voidlul's game. We'll see. Get up close and watch as Thorek tries to hold out. I do love the Musion color scheme, it must be said. Nice yellow undead. Reminds me of like Warcraft 2, way back in the day. Like when you'd play the yellow horde, have like the Death Knights with the yellow capes. I don't know why, I would always love that as a kid, growing up. Death Knights with yellow capes and like yeah, it just seemed a little like bright and silly for a Death Knight, but there you go. Works here. Terror starts to kick in for some of these dwarf units. Dwarf warriors getting rounded off there. We've got a little Invocation of the Heck on these Graveguard with great weapons just to keep them nice and topped up. Does look like the dwarfs are probably closing in on army losses here. I really look forward to the Red Duke being officially playable. Me too. And certainly, I have been using the Mixu's big unlocker mod, and I haven't played. I don't know if he's added anything in that mod or if someone else, I forget. I think was it another mod previously that would like add some unique skills and kind of anyway. Yeah, it should be a good time though once Creative Assembly officially makes it. Pretty good performance there from the dwarfs, I have to say. Taking this many missile units, as I mentioned from the beginning, is risky. There are ways you can mitigate that. You know, Bugman's Rangers, due to their defensive stats and their own self-healing, can be a little bit less risky, but even still, maybe like 1 or 2 Iron Drakes, and then you just go with more melee units, honestly, like Slayers and Giant Slayers especially, but it's tough. I know the unlock, in order to play Musion, have to use his unlocker, but I think he was the one that actually had the actual Musion mod, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. But anyway, nice performance from Voilol here. Great build construction. I mean, super smart picks all the way around. Played it decently, too. Great use of the dragon there. Kind of classic textbook side-shotting breaths, as I would expect from a veteran player like himself. So there you go. Let's move on to the next game. I'll update the scoreboard here. Move on. Okay, and then let's also update the factions once they get their picks locked in. Excellent. I don't think it's out for Warhammer 3 yet, no. Like, I know the Unlocker is ported over, and the Legendary Lords mod is ported over, but I don't know. I think the actual Musion submod is not yet. If that's the one that actually adds this stuff, I'd have to check. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I've been playing quite a bit of campaign in the limited spare time I do have. And the mod scene's pretty good right now. Like, despite some issues I know with this 2.1 especially, at least the assembly kit is out now. Modders are starting to port their work over. A lot of really good mods out already. And certainly the experience of playing with mods just adds so much in terms of character variety, different mechanics. You know, like right now I'm playing through kind of an all-chaos Bellicor campaign where I have mods that enable me to confederate almost any chaos faction. I can like take on legendary lords of defeated factions for chaos as well. So through that, I've been able to recruit like, you know, all 4 of the champions, except not village quite yet. I'm still trying to get all the way over there. Like I got Archaon on my side. I got like a couple of like I got a Exalted Bloodthirster. I got an Exalted Lord of Change. Right? It's just kind of like the all chaos campaign, which is super fun. It's been really, really fun, to be honest. And I played a short Wissenland campaign with Steam Tank mod, so I could, you know, have some Guns of Nuln fantasy. But it's good, man. It's good. There's really, really quality mods out right now, and I'm sure more great mods on the way. So I've been thinking about making some mod showcase videos. The problem is, as much as I love doing them, and I really do, in the past they haven't done very well. Like those videos tend not to perform particularly well. So I don't know. Maybe if there's demand for it, I will. But you have to kind of be in addition to the regular battle videos, most likely. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think. You guys who are here live watching, and if anyone's watching this after the fact as well. Yeah. Yeah, the AI is an issue to deal with for sure. And I know that's one thing that they're also hopefully going to address in 2.2. It's something that they've gotten a lot of feedback about, certainly. So just 1 second, guys. It's getting a little hot in here. Let me crack the window just a bit. Okay, probably should be on in the meantime while we're waiting in between matches. All right. Good. You guys are just working out their picks and bans and such, so give them some time, but yeah. Mod showcases are very nice every now and then. I agree, Loopy. It's not something that I think maybe I would do once a week, once every other week. Not very often at all, but certainly there are some that strike my eye, like the Thunder Barge mod, for example. Very, very cool. Or there's another mod that adds two mods actually. One that adds god-specific Bestigors, and another that adds, or expands rather, the god-specific Minotaurs. Both of which are just awesome. There's our own Stradivarius, his legendary characters mod, which slots in very nicely with Ixu's own legendary lords mod. To get, when used together, you get tons of new characters to play with that really add a lot of variety and spice to the campaign. And yeah, what else? The Steam Tank mod is awesome. What else are staples of my load order? I mean, there's the obvious ones like Tier 4 settlements. Upside Down Archaon, definitely worth showcasing. The Jade Pirates mod for Cafe is very good, and that also now works with the unlockers, so Yin Yin gets her own faction. So, yeah, there's a lot of mods worth showcasing, definitely. Okay, looks like Voidlul's gonna go with Warriors of Chaos. No real surprises there. Playing the best factions back to back. I don't know exactly what the pick and ban situation is, if there's like global bans or anything on this, but excuse me. My apologies. I would expect probably Tomb Kings. Slanesh maybe, I don't know. Tomb Kings, although they are very good into Warriors of Chaos, it's a little bit awkward just because Warriors have very good tools in that matchup. And I'm assuming because we're using fruit rules, you're not allowed to abuse the bugs of Tomb Kings, even though, I mean, Realm of Souls in and of itself should be counted as abuse, but that's a topic for another day. Oh yeah, of course, Loopy, your ROR mod. And, you know, actually I was brainstorming making a list, trying to put together potentially like a character mount mod. There's already a lot of mods that add character mounts. Like, I think the Thunderbarge mod actually adds gyro mounts for the engineers. Steam Tank mod adds steam tanks for the generals of the Empire, right? Like, there's a few other mods that add mounts, but like, for me, like, I love the Huntsman General, but in campaign, in the late game, it's really hard for him to compete with, like, a General of the Empire on a Griffin. So, you know, you have the animation set of somebody like the Princess, where you could make a Bow Lord on a Griffin. So, like, why not you give him, like, a Horse mount and a Griffin mount, right? Why not give, like, the Archlector, the War Altar mount that currently is unique only for Volkmar. In Tabletop, they could actually take them as mount options. And again, it would kind of give you like a high tier endgame mount that they can take that would cause terror, make them unbreakable and such. But so there is one global ban for each player. Okay, then pick 3 ban one. Okay. Yeah, saw one that adds a variety of Ogre Lords heroes. Yeah, there's quite a few. There's like the Bruiser mod, which adds a new generic hero. There's a bunch for Bretonia too that add new heroes and units. Lots and lots of mods to enhance your experience. So, yes. Oh, Caradot going with Tzeentch then, huh? Okay, Warriors versus Tzeentch. Definitely going to be interesting. What he can do. But anyway, back to my mounts mod. So I want to see if I could potentially learn how to do it myself. I don't know how much time it would take, or yeah, like Demigryph mount options for the Empire Captain. Exactly. Just more mount options for the characters which lack it. Because, like, you look at Lizardmen, for example. Lizardmen don't need more mount options. Like, all of their generic characters can get monster mounts by the end tier, right? Or, like, greenskins are pretty well set, although arguably the Goblin War Boss, the Lord, non-caster Goblin, he probably could use, like, a high-tier monster mount as well. But, I mean, greenskins are mostly fine. In fact, let me look at my list here. Yeah, Prophetess also, I think, needs a Hippogriff mount. The Beastmaster needs, like, a Black Dragon mount, right? There's, like, some that are missing. Let's see. Yeah, Huntsman General, the Archlector, Nurgle. It'd be cool to give the Sorcerer Lord and the Exalted Hero access to a Botfly mount. And yeah, I mean, there's a handful of others, like arguably giving the Spellweaver a Forest Dragon. I don't know, Unicorn mounts, make them actually good. Croak's Chair is a mount option. There we go. There we go. Well, the one thing about the unicorn mounts is that previously they had magic resistance, which was actually very good. Like, they would give your caster, like, very good magic resistance, right? But when that switches to spell resistance, it becomes quite a bit less useful. They still have decent charge, but, like, so much of their power came from the magic resistance, in my opinion. That just that change in and of itself was enough to kind of screw unicorns over a little bit. Which is unfortunate, because they are a fun mount option for sure. But I don't know. Yeah, we've got Be'lakor. That's right, Be'lakor for Warriors of Chaos. And we've got Marauders up front here. Marauder Horsemen, Hellstriders. So it's just all the meta stuff, you know, all the meta light cavalry. Be'lakor, we got a single Chaos Chariot here, and some Marauders. Fairly basic. On the other side, wow, it's very similar. We've got a lot of Marauder infantry. This time, Kairos up in there, which is potentially risky, but we'll see. Single Soul Grinder, we've got some Chariots, Marauder Horsemen, Screamers, 2 Chariots, 4 Marauder Horsemen, a Screamer, and Fury on each flank. Let's see. Oh, they made them slow again. That's right. That's right. They did. They should be 90 plus speed, though, right? I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be. But also, like a unit of Unicorn Cavalry. How cool would that be? Anyway. Let's not think too hard about the horned horses, and instead focus on the battle at hand. Warrior's going to be surging forward. They've got, yeah, just superior light cavalry by far, both in terms of numbers and quality, and even counting the Screamers and the Furies in this engagement with the barrier and everything, it's still going to be a tough go for Tzeentch here, I think, potentially, but some nice contact there already with a little blue fire. Soul Grinder's also shooting some shots at the Chaos Chariot there. Out on the other side, we've got heavy investment of value. Screamers charging down, Furies charging down, the Chariot also moving, potentially just to block, I'm not really sure, but one Marauder Horseman does get chewed up almost immediately. Let's keep these flank engagements within view, because both of them are going to be pretty important here as the Hellstriders are able to catch and finish some of those Marauder Horsemen. The Screamers jump in. They're going to do a decent amount of damage to the Hellstriders. They'll be an okay trade against them, but the Furies very quickly run out of steam. Kairos harvesting some value from the blue fires there, but it's just a big, massive noble engagement on both sides. And again, numbers and quality wise, I think I have to give it to the Warriors, but let's see on the execution. The Screamers definitely will be a nice tool to have in this kind of an engagement here, but Be'lakor comes in to respond directly to them. Kairos also dropping, trying to take out some of those chariots there. Meanwhile, in the front line, these Marauders should just win outright, the Tzeentch Marauders, because of the barrier. It's just a straight upgrade with no downsides, but we'll see how much of a difference it ends up actually making. Certainly, it looks like Karadox units are just getting a little bit outnumbered and isolated here. And Kairos is going to be having a tough time. He's just staying landed near the Soul Grinder for the time being. Looks like he does pop up into the air there. I'd probably just stay with that Soul Grinder to protect from Be'lakor, but I mean, at this point, he's just kind of getting overrun. Not really a lot of ways around it. Value damage-wise, Voidlul's ahead by a pretty decent amount. And battlefield control, it seems like he's in a very commanding position. Yeah, Orion and Unicorn fixes, yes, not included. It's true. It is true, and it's odd because, like, certain things were updated, like, obviously the Beastmen and certain other things that had the most recent DLCs were, like, fixed and up to date, but then certain things, it seemed like were from an older branch, not really sure. But, yeah, I think this is, I mean, I hate to call it so early for Voidlul's, but I think it's his victory for sure. I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough for Tzeentch to come back from this, although certainly the chariots can come through and deal a lot of damage to this infantry. He just doesn't have enough stopping power to get through all this light cavalry from the Undivided Warriors here. A little bit of blue fire there into Be'lakor will do some damage to him, but because he just has so much HP, he's going to be relatively hard for Kairos to snipe. And, yeah, I mean, Kairos doesn't really want to fight. Even with the Soul Grinder 2v1, it's going to be potentially risky, but, yeah, a little bit of point-blank fire there from the Soul Grinder. As Be'lakor lines up his cavalry support. Tzeentch just looking way too thin on the ground. Yeah, Orion can't fire while moving again. And yet, you know, you have the Sisters of Twilight and units from that DLC, but then, like, the improvements to some of the non-DLC stuff didn't make it through for whatever reason, so definitely looking for some more of that stuff to get corrected going forward, but
We need slaves! Kill most, but not all!
yes, the blue chariots here doing their best, but they only do so much at the end of the day. There it is. So, yeah. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if Kairos had been really concentrating blue fire on Be'lakor since the start of the game, like non-stop, he might have been able to snipe Be'lakor, but even still, it was going to be tough to win that mobility fight just because, I mean, warriors are just better because they have access to Hellstriders, right? And that's going to make them just automatically better in that kind of wide peripheral engagement. Now, maybe you just take, like, a bunch of Tzeentch halberds, although then you just died a bit of shades. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Just too bad, because, I mean, if he was good, it'd be really good for the Wood Elves. It would give you a great option in a number of situations, but I agree. Fire on the move, give him, like, his mass fixes and whatnot. Be pretty solid, but he dies super easily. He tends not to be cost efficient. Yeah. You would think the switch to percentage-based healing would help him, but I guess his HP is not actually that high. And not being able to fire on the move and just kind of having a really clunky missile attack really hinders him. Because when you can fire on the move and have him just very, like, super fast and responsive in terms of actually throwing his missile attack, and it made him like a great hybrid character, but right now it's so clunky to try and actually use him at range. And anyway, yeah, items are crap, he's slow. Exactly. Yeah, the speed one was a big one for sure, but here I gotta respect Karadox's attempt, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're just up against like a mirror of your own faction, but just better in many ways. So it is what it is. Let's move on here. Bear with me just 1 second, guys, and we'll over to this. Let me get the next match lined up. I'll be right back. Alright, so it looks like we're just waiting on the next semifinal round to be ready, so I'll just respond to some chat here. Any toothpaste recommendations? I use Sensodyne. Not sponsored, but yes. Hellstriders could be like 750, and I think they'd still be like the strongest light cavalry in the game at 750. They are way too cheap at 600. Like, it's ridiculous. And especially, like, if you chase and murder one routing unit with them so that they charge up their little soul scent passive or whatever it's called, they get like some damage resistance on top of their physical resistance. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah, I mean, 750, 800 cost would be like my range for them, but yeah, Mark of Slaanesh and Mark of Tzeentch both don't have any downsides. Mark of Slaanesh should get -10 armor, just to all units that have Mark of Slaanesh. And then, yeah, and then Tzeentch, I think, should get like -5 or 10% weapon strength or something on all of its units to compensate for barrier. But, yeah, right now, Khorne and Nurgle marks do give you clear downsides, which means that Khorne and Nurgle are terrible in comparison to Slaanesh and Tzeentch. Yeah, Beasts of Tashnars are 700 gold, exactly. You look at like Centaurs are 700 gold, right? Centaurs are widely considered to be very good light cavalry. They're 700 gold also, right? So it's just a little bit wonky. Creative Assembly seems to just really love Slaanesh, and that's okay. Hopefully we can get it corrected. Two biggest things I'm looking for in 2.2 in terms of balance changes, besides bug fixes, and that part is obvious. Biggest thing I'm looking for in terms of balance changes is something to nerf undead, probably just buff crumbling damage. Like, I think it's time. I think I've been complaining long enough. I mean, I've been suffering through crumbling damage for like 5 years now, so please, can we just bump those numbers up a little bit? I think that would like really go a long way to nerfing undead. And then fix Hellstriders and Marauder Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen, on top of fixing their bugs, I still also think need a slight cost increase. I mean, they've been the best skirmish cavalry for a very long time, probably in most people's opinions, so I think they can do with just like a +50 cost increase across the board. And then, yeah, and then there's a lot of other kind of minor stuff, but those are the major ones that jump out to me as being particularly egregious. But anyway, Khorne Cav gets some buffs. I mean, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Yeah, well, and especially because they buffed a lot of undead units' leadership, which means, I mean, first of all, it's hard to get them to even crumble in the first place, and once they do, they're taking almost no damage, right? It's specifically if you compare it to demonic crumbling, exactly, it gets hilarious. Like, demonic units die almost instantly when their leadership breaks, whereas undead units will stand and fight for minutes, literally. So yeah, I agree. Examination, they also need to tweak, like, there's some maps on the quick battle rotation that should not be on the quick battle rotation. I did see they're planning on doing a split queue. I think they publicly announced that. That they're doing a split queue for land battle and domination, which is amazing. Yeah, but we really need more maps for domination and for land battle both. I agree. So UI is another definite area that they could improve on. Overall, I mean, things are looking pretty good. I believe so. I'm pretty sure that they publicly announced it, but I know that's been one of the most requested changes for sure in terms of people in the community not wanting to play, one game mode or the other. So I think they are planning on fixing the ogres, like bug capture weight. Pepsi or Coca-Cola? See, I'm Brazilian, so I gotta say Guaraná, otherwise I'll get disowned. Yeah, I know, like, in Warhammer 1, I want to say, they had a system where you could make custom maps and download them through the workshop, and then it would actually, like, if you had it in your library, and someone else joined your game, they could join your game without having the mod. It would then just download the mod to their PC or whatever. I don't know if that's something that they could potentially do again, but I should probably get the scoreboard properly updated now that we have our competitors in here. Like, we're going to have AC Maiden versus Phoenix King. Excellent. And we'll let them get their faction picks locked in here. I also need to make sure I have the correct map. No. Excellent. Looking good, my friends. Looking good. Yeah, I agree. It does take forever for them to do ladder stuff, it seems like, but I'm really hoping that they will, like, just change out the maps in the rotation in terms of land battles, especially. Like, Domination just needs more maps straight up, but there are a lot of great land battle maps that are not in the rotation, and conversely, there's some really terrible maps that are in the rotation, like the Steppes of Isha choke point map, for whatever reason. Like, I don't understand how they thought that was a good one to put in the rotation. Like, literally, any of the other Steppes of Isha maps would have been better, but anyway. Curious to see what they do. I'm really hoping that, 2.2, we are going to get another batch of RORs as well. I'm really looking forward to what those will be. We should find out quite shortly, actually. I think 2.2 comes out in just a couple of weeks, right? But another round of RORs is amazing. I don't know beyond 2.2, for 2.3 or other possible patches what the plans are there, but certainly they collect feedback from 2.2. Hopefully, another 6 weeks or so we can get another patch, continue to address balance issues, maybe give us another round of RORs or some other little free LC. People interested? Because I definitely have noticed interest dropping. I mean, my videos, I was holding pretty steady over 10,000 views average, which is great for my channel, historically. But it started to dip down now a little bit, where it's like, one out of every maybe 5 to 10 videos will break that threshold. But it's still pretty good. And I definitely don't mind imbalanced map formation, certainly. That one in particular is just... just that central choke point just makes me so sad. Like, and I talked about this in a recent video too. Even if they made like little ways to flank around, it would be fine. But yeah, like even a map like I'd have to think of some examples. Maybe I'll do a dedicated video about maps, but yeah, it needs to have like 15 maps, 20 maps in rotation. I would agree. Yeah, right now the map rotation is far too small. Looks like we're gonna have Slaanesh versus High Elves. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Altar of Ultimate Darkness. Oh, you know it. Of course. Of course. All right. Moving quite along here. I mean, I've barely been streaming an hour. That? How long have I been going for? Yeah, barely, not even an hour. And we've already moved through one round onto the second round, so it should be a relatively short tournament stream today. Fortunately, I had some other stuff I had to get done during the daytime, so I couldn't stream some of the preliminary rounds, but here we are in the final and having a grand old time. Glad we get to see some High Elves, at least, from Phoenix King, even if it is against Slaanesh, which is very, very scary. But, gotta root for my XMT lad here, Phoenix King. Hopefully the Elves will not fall to Slaanesh corruption, but I don't love their chances, if I'm being honest. Oh, just looking at what we got coming up on the schedule here. It looks like, oh, just battles all day, every day. Might also be trying to find some help with some modding projects, but we'll see. I never see this matchup, at least in tournaments. It is a pretty interesting matchup. Certainly one that can be rough for the High Elves in my experience, but my experience is pretty limited because it seems like a lot of High Elf players maybe got scared of this matchup and just refuse to play it now. So we'll see how this goes. I'm genuinely curious to see what Phoenix King's got cooking here. Looks like a lot of ranged, and specifically Lothern Seaguard, which is a good idea. And obviously the Lothern Seaguard, their ranged attack's going to be good against pretty much everything on Slaanesh's roster, except for the heavily armored warriors, which I don't know that they're going to be a super common pick here. They could defend themselves from Slaanesh light cavalry with their spears, mostly fine. If they get rear charged by something like Seeker, they're going to have a bad time, but still, see how they do. Right, Steven? Yeah, right. I mean, they literally made the Slaanesh cultist an elf. So, yeah, I would assume so. I think I've actually seen him playing this matchup, so. AC Maiden coming in with Azazel. Interesting choice. Potentially quite risky against all that bow fire. He will die in a huge hurry with only 5 armor, 6,400 HP. Just 20% physical resistance to help that out, but yeah, it's only going to go so far. Add, what, extra 1,000 or so HP on there against non-magical bows. Some Hellstriders, Chaos Warriors, and Devoted Marauders. Okay, so he did bring some heavy warriors. That will help against this kind of mass ranged attack. He's also got plenty of supporting troops here. Mostly non-AP, just Hellstriders. Yeah, all non-AP. He's got mix of... Are they all anti-large? Yeah, 3 anti-large Hellstriders and 3 Javelins, 2 AP Furies, and that's it on Phoenix King's side. Tyrion, is he on foot? Foot Tyrion. Okay, so there's definitely something interesting going on with that. Got some Shadow Warriors, 3 Shadow Warriors, some archers mixed with Lothern Seaguard, so a lot of bow fire. I say fire, but a lot of arrows going to be flying out here. Metal Mage for the key armor debuff, and Book of Hoeth for some additional wins. Searing Doom, just damage output. So, yeah, Tyrion the Chad killed Nakari twice, right? So it makes sense, but we'll see. This is a lot of bows. This is a lot of bows. And the light cavalry, I mean, certainly Illyrian Reavers are going to have a pretty bad time trying to defend this. But Right now, Shadow Warriors moving up. See if they focus fire. I would imagine that Phoenix King's going to want to mirror Azazel with the Shadow Warriors and try and use them to snipe him if he can. Let's see. Lothran Seaguard are going to have to be careful, and just in general, defending this many bows, I mean, they're only going to get their bracing bonus if they are turned in the appropriate direction. Let's see, right now, not really focusing on any specific targets, just kind of pressuring on many angles, a little bit of a slap shot there. And it looks like now some of the Lothran Seaguard are starting to turn to fire. The only unit with devastating flanker here, though, I mean, of course, besides Azazel, the Marauder Horsemen do have devastating flanker. They're going to come in and throw their javelins, as these are unshielded Lothran Seaguard. They will take some damage there, certainly. But the Marauder Horsemen also will take some significant damage in return. Bows also cutting through some of those devoted Marauders. Chaos Warriors going to get into combat with spears here. Will be a little bit of a wet noodle contest, but notice how these Illyrian Reavers are trying desperately to kind of draw Hellstriders into a position where they have support, and even still, they end up just getting horribly massacred. Such a cost-inefficient trade there. Really nice whip opportunity. Lash of Slaanesh does a huge amount of damage with that little blob right there. And on this side, the Elf archers are able to mostly push back Slaanesh light cavalry, but in the center, got Azazel rushing in here now. All the Furies dive in as well, so the Shadow Warriors get shut down in a pretty big hurry and just really don't get any time to fire. It's unfortunate. The one Hellstrider, too, comes in, even despite facing overwhelming odds, is still probably going to almost pay for itself. Yep. There you go. Can YOLO the unit in and still have it perform. The Elves also just kind of getting split in terms of fire. Not having Tyrion on horseback makes it tough for him to try and mirror Azazel. Another nice whip there. So as the Elf units start to get kind of more bunched up, Slaanesh can just take advantage of that area of effect damage. And I just don't see this going particularly well. Devoted Marauders, even at 500 cost, are still going to trade super cost efficiently against the Lothran Seaguard and other units there. Enrage Lothran Seaguard here, hit with Fascination, actually continuing to shoot their bows. They're so angry. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but certainly Elves having leadership issues, and I mean, yeah, it is kind of to be expected. Slaanesh is just wildly overpowered right now, and you should global ban them every single time. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to defend all of that anyway. And maybe if he had really good focus fire from the outset, he could have done something with this. But I still think all this kind of static value is going to be hard to protect. Maybe you actually go with like a very strong flying presence. Try and kind of skirmish kite with like multiple breath attacks or something. I don't really know. But that was rough. Yeah, so Reavers and Silverhelms are definitely dead weight here, I would agree. They just trade so badly into the Slaanesh cavalry. Look at that, even with a favorable engagement, they still, I mean, just horrible, horrible trades, so. Yeah, I guess maybe. I don't know, I would still think really high-level tournament play, like when you're getting towards the finals, I might still global ban them, but I guess you're right. Vampire counts and Cathay still exists, right? So, yeah. I don't know. Me personally, I think I would rather. It depends on who I'm playing against, I guess. But I don't know. I think Cathay can be countered by certain factions, maybe less so in land, but interesting one. Let's see what they can do. Update the scoreboard here, just getting distracted. Yeah, Slaanesh is nasty, and in my experience, Slaanesh does well against all of the elves. I mean, maybe Wood Elves, you could do some interesting things in land battle trying to kite, but mainly because Hellstriders are literally 100 speed with poison, and physical resistance, and missile block chance, and anti-large, and everything else. like, even Wood Elves have a hard time against that kind of speed and poison and everything, so I don't know. You think Wood Elves can handle vampire counts? Yeah. Vampire counts is I mean, me personally, if I'm playing in this tournament, I'd probably global ban vampire counts, but that's just due to my own personal bias. Um, Cathay, I feel like I could pick into with certain factions. Like if you can manage to outshoot Cathay, especially you can outshoot them and force them out of position. I feel like I've had success with that in the past in land battles against Cathay, or like people have used that to get effect when I'm playing Cathay. Like, like I don't know. What do you guys think? I know I kind of talked recently a little bit about Skaven versus Cathay, or like Coast versus Cathay. Those are the two. Coast, Skaven, maybe Dwarfs too. Honestly, I might try those factions against Cathay in land battles and see where that goes, and just try and outshoot him. Maybe Dark Elves are the best elves now. I think I agree with that. I think we all can agree on that one. Dark Elves certainly got the most buffs out of all the elves, which is saying something. High Elves got some significant buffs too. Wood Elves got some more minor buffs, but somebody was saying recently in my comments that they had been having a lot of success with double Forest Dragon, and I wish they would send me those replays because it's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, and I haven't actually had a chance to try it myself. But makes them sturdier than dwarfs. True. Main thing is, again, outshooting them, and then explosives. Like in my experience, bombers, globadiers, miners with blasting charges to a lesser degree, but in general, explosive type units, because Cathay units are all densely packed, and I mean, even the ones that don't have that great of AP are still going to do a pretty good job against something like a Jade Warrior. Um, I don't know. The idea, at least on paper, is that you try and force them out of position and then bomb them out with your explosive type units. But that's just, like the reason Empire can't is because Outriders just die to cannons and they're too expensive. But when you can take like 4 Globadiers, for example, or 4 bombers, right? Even if 1 or 2 of them gets blasted on the approach or otherwise compromised, they can do well. And the Globadiers in particular, due to the armor, I find are quite effective. Like if your opponent tries to dive them with any Cathayan cavalry, will get shredded on the approach. I mean, they can get counterfired by Cathayan like crossbows and stuff, certainly, but usually you can get them into range to do enough damage to pay for themselves. Sunmaker versus Cathay. Yeah, that's a fun one for sure. Especially if you have line of sight blocking. Blocking the Cathay and cannons potentially from counterfiring, really force them out of position, and then take some great swords and some war wagons. And Empire can do some things as well. Again, similar idea. You try and outshoot Cathay and force them out of position. That's really, I mean, in my experience, the best way of dealing with them. But it's hard. Certainly, it can be very difficult. The Death Globes I haven't tried. I think because the poison globes are just so cost effective. Again, it's not necessarily the damage that it's the fact that you can take so many of them. Like you need to be able to take 4, which is why again Outriders don't work. And I think the Death Globe bombs are they 800, 900? I don't know. Maybe they're not that much more expensive, but in my mind at least they're that much more expensive to the point of being that much less cost effective. When it comes to mortars, on the other hand, obviously the Avalanche mortars, the ROR, Death Globe mortars are the best, but I don't know. You might be right, though, to be honest. I don't know if I've tried it enough, really. Maybe I should do some side-by-side comparisons, but... yeah, Yeah, explosives are fantastic. It's just, you know, the factions, the number of factions that can outshoot Cathay is pretty limited, right? Like, none of the melee rush factions obviously are going to be able to do that, so it makes most of those matchups very tough into Cathay and land battles. Um, yeah, I'm thinking even like greenskins, you could maybe do something funny and take like 4 cheap catapults, like a bunch of flappas, and do some crazy like mobile hit and run artillery spread. I don't know. It might not even work, but I haven't tried it. That kind of outshoot and pick apart approach, I haven't tried with the greenskins. Maybe it works, probably not, but you don't have any really effective explosive units, which is kind of what makes that particular build type sing. But maybe the chariots work well enough. Anyway, make sure this is all updated here in terms of the factions. Phoenix King playing Dark Elves this time instead of High Elves. And Tzeentch for AC Maiden. Kind of funny that GGX is the clan that's hosting this tournament, and then in the semifinal we've got XMT, ODM, and then 2 VM players facing off, right? Oh man, that's just kind of the way of things, right? Oh, not saying anything about their skill level, obviously. It's just, you know, on on this particular day in history. Just so happens that it's the way the cookie crumbled, and that's okay. Death Globes can almost one-shot most infantry units. One volley will bring chosen to half HP. That is pretty impressive. It is pretty impressive, definitely. Flag catapults also seem good against Cathay on paper, but again, that huge unit model makes them very vulnerable to counterfire, so you'd want to hide them behind something. They can use that arc to fire up and over. Versus Dark Elves as Lizardmen. Oof. With all the Dark Elf buffs, I mean, that was already a like even kind of borderline matchup before, in my opinion. And with all the Dark Elf buffs, I just don't. I would have to workshop that matchup to tell you a decent build. I don't know, to be honest. But interesting build from Tzeentch already. I like what I see. You've got Sorcerer Lord on the disc, some warriors up front, and marauders. 2 warriors, 3 marauders, pink horrors, some weird spawn also for armor sundering, furies, excuse me, screamers, making me scream here, and some horsemen of Tzeentch as well. For Malekith's side, Phoenix King coming in here with the big boy up on the dragon. He's got a couple of Cold One Knights, some Scourge chariots, lots of Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, some Harpies, including the Karens of Cain, and then 3 Bleak Swords. You said Malekith's name, Tom Bombadil, and now you've summoned him. Personally, I am here for the reign of Malekith. I mean, hashtag not my Phoenix King, but he is certainly a potent pick in many matchups. See how he does here. Tzeentch. They've got their work cut out for them. The Scourge Chariots should be an interesting pick. They deal enough damage to consistently get through the barrier, and it's going to be a pretty hefty kite effort. Let's see if Phoenix King's micro is up to the task, but can Ogres trade okay against Slaanesh? Yes and no. Ogres can do well, certainly. The high DPS is pretty good in general against the low HP of Slaanesh, but Hellstriders are still a huge problem, so it's, yeah. Previously, when Hellstriders didn't have their 10% physical resistance, it wasn't so bad, but now it's definitely rough. All right.
The Wind Lord has shown me their destiny, and only death
Let's
awaits.
see if Phoenix King can bring this series back. It's like the Scourge Chariots are going to be coming in range, perhaps to try and shoot the Sorcerer Lord himself. Not really a lot of great other targets for them to be shooting at here. Yeah, they kind of loosed a couple of shots there, dealing some barrier damage. No real damage on anything important yet, though. Kind of just wasting those shots on the regenerating barrier. But here they start to fire at the Marauder Horsemen and actually do some real HP damage, start to chew a few models away there. And it's pretty obvious that Phoenix King just going to be using his mobility to continuously pressure. The key here is, from a micro perspective, not to get too caught out. Like, these Harpies are already in a little bit of a dangerous position, potentially going to be mass shot by the pink horrors and just killed very quickly. But yeah, we've got Bleak Swords countercharging in against those Marauder Horsemen. It's definitely a bold move. Furies swooping, despite the Bleak Sword's extra stats. They're probably not going to do terribly well there. That is a nice little early value get, but certainly nothing game-breaking. The blues, or pinks rather, opening up here. Scourge Chariots just committing to a little melee charge there on those Marauders, punching straight through, and it looks like the Cairns of Cain going to get into the Furies without the Furies having got a charge, and Malekith just gets aggressive, immediately jumping on the unit of pinks here, which is quite a good play indeed. The repeater crossbows also coming through, trying to get some fire, but looks like the Marauder Horsemen might just charge in. Yeah, they're just going to go for a melee engagement instead, since they will obviously win this melee engagement. You can see them firing in melee pretty clearly here and just murdering the Dark Riders outright. So pretty rough engagement to be caught in there in a nice clean 1v1. All this expensive light cavalry for the Dark Elves is very quickly going to get killed, but the question is, can Malekith just carry straight up regardless? I've got a big final chance mutation, or is this a Soul Stealer? Looks like a Soul Stealer going off, hitting all these Tzeentch units here, hits that summoned Chaos Spawn. So, I mean, Malekith comes in, he says, I see your OP Marauder Horsemen, and I'm just going to smash them in the head. Because I don't care about their OP-ness. Meanwhile, take a look at the other side here. Bleak Sword's definitely suffering. We've got Weird Spawn punching through. Good engagement for the Harpies, though, on the Screamers. That is very cost-effective engagement up in the air. Cold One Knights also managed to isolate some Marauders of Tzeentch. They're going to tear them apart fairly quickly, but value trade-wise, it's looking pretty bad for Phoenix King right now. Malekith is definitely going to have to carry a lot of value here, which certainly he can. But he does need some support units alive in order to do so. Right now, these light attack units for Dark Elves, they're squishy enough that a little slip in micro is fairly unforgiving, whereas Tzeentch is going to be much more forgiving because of that barrier mechanic and just being strong in general. So yeah, a few quick games here so far today, but looks like AC Maiden's going to clean this and probably go on to the final there, but we'll see. Malekith still trying to do his best to clear out units wherever he can. I think Phoenix King maybe should have just tried to kite that out a little bit more instead of actually committing to a melee engagement there, but another nice Soul Stealer going to be going down. Will mostly deal barrier damage to the Lord as he kind of pulls away here, but it still will do some pretty decent damage, at least keep the barrier off of these units. But man, barrier's so strong. Such an insanely strong mechanic. And while Malekith is alive and doing well, I don't think Dark Elves are going to get close to army losses, but excuse me, he's definitely in a position now where he can start to get focused by the pinks. A little bit of blue fire here, giving him that warp flame, contact effect, a little bit of debuffs, but a nice little countercharge with the chariot, making sure that the one unit kind of threatening Malekith can't fire effectively. These other pinks are going to start firing, though, literally firing. And, I mean, a lot of this damage dealt at this point is just barrier damage. And it really just goes to show how insanely strong Tzeentch is here. The Tzeentch build is pretty smart. I mean, you're really taking advantage of everything. But definitely the Marauder Horsemen just straight up beating the Dark Riders outright. Like, without that bug, the Dark Riders actually probably have a chance to win that melee engagement. It's still probably not great, and because of the warp flame, contact effect, the barrier, and other things. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the Marauder Horsemen probably still win that in melee, but yeah, the Dark Riders getting caught like that in melee is just, it's rough. Definitely very rough. And the Dark Riders do require better micro, certainly, than the Marauder Horsemen, given the Marauder Horsemen shoot 360 and the bugs and everything else, so painful to watch in many ways, but still, I like the idea of the build. Just the execution of it, yeah, it was pretty tough there. He did manage to get some good catches, though, like catching those Screamers up in the air. Excuse me, silencing the Furies fairly effectively, but it's a tough one for sure. So let's go on now to the final. See if I need to join a new lobby or if we can stay in this one, but bear with me, guys. I'll be right back. All right. And we're here, AC Maiden versus Voilos in the final for today's GGX land battle tournament. Some nice relaxing Med 2 campaign map tunes. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to be getting started very shortly here. These guys are just getting their map and faction picks locked in. And yes, I mean, the biggest thing I've been hoping for in 2.2 is obviously just bug fixes in general. I mean, there's quite a few. We could kind of go down the list, but especially, I mean, big ones affecting multiplayer are the Undead Infinite Ammo bug, where if a unit, sorry, I think it's not all spells, which is spells and effects which resurrect unit models, I believe, also restore ammo, which is obviously not intended, but then for certain ones, if the ammo gets to max, it will stay max, like it bugs out and it will actually become infinite. And obviously the Marauder Horseman shooting bug also needs to be addressed. And then, I mean, there's quite a few other ones, but those are the two kind of biggest ones that stand out in my mind. And hopefully we get those addressed. But anyway, sorry, I just get distracted here by some people sending me some messages. Let's see here. They're just still getting their faction picks worked out, picks and bans and all that. So we've got one global ban each in this, and then you do the pick 3 ban 1. So those of you guys who don't know, if this is your first time watching a tournament series, basically what happens is one player will pick 3 factions. Like if I'm AC Maiden, for example, I would pick, let's say, Empire, Bretonnia, and Kislev, just for fun. And then my opponent would say, okay, I'm going to pick Slaanesh because I global banned Vampire counts. So they would say, okay, I'm going to pick Slaanesh and I will ban Kislev. So then I would have to pick between Empire and Bretonnia, right? So you kind of alternate back and forth, like who does the pick 3. And then, yeah, that's how you do the picks and bans. And I believe you can't pick the same faction twice, and you can't ban the same faction twice. But then obviously the global ban is for the entire series, so that's why, I mean, certain factions kind of pick your poison, right, depending on which of the sort of OP factions you hate fighting the most, which for me would definitely be Vampire counts. I would much rather fight Slaanesh than Vampire counts, because here's the thing, if I get beat by a player playing as Slaanesh who just outplays me straight up, I feel that's okay. You know, they outplayed me. They used their superior micro to beat me. That's fine. But when I just get outground by a blob of Vampire counts, that feels really bad. So, yeah, let's see here. Looks like potentially Lizardmen. Whoops, I accidentally clicked on the builds there. My apologies. Yeah, let's see. Is it going to be Zinch versus Lizardmen? Strong possibility, but I would assume AC Maiden is still picking, but we'll see. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Cliff of Beasts. Pretty good map, relatively balanced. Whoops, I keep clicking on that. My apologies, guys. I'm so sorry. I promise I'm not new to this, but yeah, Lizardmen. It's nice to see some Lizardmen. I haven't been seeing very much of them in Immortal Empires so far, so I thought legit they were going to be better in Domination than they ended up being, but I think for a few reasons, Skink leadership made them not as effective in Domination as I think a lot of people would have liked, and then Swords are just kind of okay. Like, they're really not that great of a mid-tier infantry unit at the end of the day. Their armor is really subpar. They have decent weapon strength, actually very good weapon strength for the price. Their attack is low, and their attack animations are also pretty slow. They themselves are just kind of slow. Their leadership's okay, but I don't know. I just don't love Saurus right now in general, so in domination they tend to struggle, but in land battles where you can take advantage of their very strong, huge single entities, a little bit harder to use well in domination. They can definitely prevail. Certainly the healing dinos and kind of the perfect vigor blob of Nakai. I keep doing that. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know why. I literally don't know why. I think I need some rest. Yeah, it's been a long day already. I'm just gonna, like, not touch my mouse for a while, because it's really quite bad. Let's get this started. Oh no, he's playing Slaanesh. That's what I thought. I was gonna say, I don't think he's actually playing Tzeentch. I mean, Tzeentch into Lizardmen would be interesting, but I don't know. Like the lack of direct armor piercing. Maybe Flamers could work, but I would actually think Lizardmen could do okay in land battles. I don't know that I've played that one very much, to be honest. But Slaanesh, is Slaanesh actually... I mean, Slaanesh is certainly just a better faction overall, but against the Lizardmen, I realize now that I just haven't played as or against the Lizardmen in land battles enough against the monogods to really have like a strong opinion, other than maybe Khorne. I have played that one quite a bit. This one, I don't know if I've actually played very much, so I don't know exactly what you would... Kind of thinking through things. I mean, just take a bunch of Marauders, right? Anti-infantry Marauders should trade perfectly fine with Skinks. They should also trade fairly cost-effectively against... Sorry, my brain is been getting pulled in multiple directions at the same time. But, yeah, they trade pretty reasonably against Saurus, I would think. And then I'd probably take a lot of Hellstriders, just because they're so good, and maybe some of the anti-large ones, but definitely some of the Hellscourge ones as well, because I think the Hellscourges specifically would be really good for running down Skinks, like Chameleons or whatever regular Skink skirmishers. Make sure you stay safe from that missile fire. And then from there, you need to make sure you have tools to deal with the monsters, big dinos, which is kind of the trickiest thing, maybe. I mean, depending on how much funds you have, you could take a big centerpiece like Nakari or like a Soul Grinder or something, but it's going to be tricky. Maybe some AP cavalry? Hard to say, but... From the Lizardmen's side, I mean, if you can keep your missile units safe, then that's a huge if. I think against Hellstriders it's going to be too hard, and even like Cold One Riders are going to trade pretty inefficiently, especially against the anti-large Hellstriders. So, like, you'd maybe want to just go all in on like a big dino box and just try and smash Slaanesh, because they, I mean, at the end of the day, their anti-large tools are going to be relatively limited, believe it or not. I mean, maybe not, though. I think in a surround, something like Heartseekers would just do enough damage to maybe kill certain dinos. I don't know. Again, I haven't played enough to myself to say, but I might just go all in for a big dino push, like Mazdamundi plus Dreadsaurian, and then just support them with whatever funds you have left. It's risky. Definitely risky, but that much of an all-in... Like, the Hellstriders are not going to do anything against that, right? They'll help clean up your support units, potentially, yes, but then... Like, with Mazdamundi especially, you have healing, and you also have some AoE damage to deal with, like, Demonet surrounds. I mean, AoE damage is a little bit slow to develop in terms of the Comet and Ruination of Cities. Ruination of Cities is tough to dodge, though, because it's fairly unpredictable. Well, there's a lot to consider, honestly, here. I kind of think through this matchup, theory crafted it a bit. Yeah. Maybe he's got something else. Maybe you go mass skink and try and kite, but I don't know. Kiting Slaanesh seems like a bad idea, especially if a faction as slow, relatively speaking, as the Lizardmen. I think it'd be very difficult to kite Slaanesh effectively. We'll see. Chameleons are one of the best units in the game, even still, anyways. So, perhaps we'll see 5 chameleons. Or 4, I think it's 5 actually. You can take 5 under fruit rules, right? Pretty sure. I forget. Anyway. Okay, just looking at some things over here. Some more people sending me messages. Y'all are doing well. A little bit of a chill afternoon stream for me. I know it's pretty late for you guys in Europe, but getting through it. We are getting through it. We're on to the final already, and we're barely, what, an hour and a half in? Yeah, so doing good. I do appreciate also that Void Lulz is going to be taking the Tehennowin color scheme, which is fantastic. Another campaign I've been playing recently. Whoops. I don't know why I keep doing that, guys. It's okay. They both just readied up right now, so it's all good. But yeah, I've been playing Oxyotl campaign, and he's an interesting one because Tehennowin usually gets pressured pretty early by Rakarth and Skrolk. So, like, you can confederate Tehennowin pretty early on. Problem is that, in my experience, at least with the setup I have, Krokar and Tic-Tac-Toe both hate me every time I played through that, so I end up having to kill them and use a mod to just get them on my side after I kill them, basically. So, a little bit painful, but it's fun. Lizardmen are definitely a good time. Oxyotl is just ridiculously strong in campaign. His mechanics are very, very OP. Not that his campaign, I mean, it is easy, I would say, in many ways, but I think, did they say they're going to change the start location of some people? I want to say that they should put some other people down there, or maybe they said they were going to. I don't remember. Certainly, I think, like, Kairos, he has a place called Fate Weaver's Crevasse that's just, like, right down there, like, right across the ocean from where he starts on Penguin Land, so I could see that being a good option. Oof. Speaking of options, this is a thing you can do. So, okay, not exactly what I was thinking, but solar engines. There we go. There's a unit that's very good that's on Lizardmen's roster. The AoE magic kind of explosion damage that it does with its shot will be quite good. The blinded debuff is also going to help equalize the stats between the Slaanesh units and the Lizardmen units here. He's got some Pterodon Riders up in the air, so very interesting. Not exactly, it's not Mazdamo D Dreadsaurian, but you're going for a box build with 2 solar engines. Very interesting. We've got Azazel on the other side here, a single Soul Grinder. Kind of what I expected, to be honest. An anti-large AP, so Perfect Musk, fairly decent here. We've also got a single unit of Fiends. Very interesting choice. I kind of like the Fiends here, actually. Help with the monster fight. Kind of support the Soul Grinder, if you will. Horsemen of Slaanesh. We've got some Hellstriders. And, yeah, same over here. Some more Horsemen and Hellstriders. So, no, I guess just the one Fury. We're going to have to be careful not to die too quickly. Just, they'll need to pressure those Pterodons at specific times. Right now, the solar engines are firing at the Marauder Horsemen, which is a decent target for sure. Definitely want to try and get rid of them, but I might switch this one on over to the Fiends, perhaps. I don't know, though. At the end of the day, I mean, the Fiends are going to have a pretty hard time against all this anti-large stuff, so not really sure. Maybe try and get a beat on Azazel if you can, or I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. Azazel's going to have to use his magic quite a bit because, I mean, the Devoted Marauders will trade okay against Temple Guard, but I don't think they'll win. It'll probably be decently cost-effective, but a nice net here, Overcast. It's a lot of Winds of Magic to just use on some Marauder Horsemen, but it looks like Mazdamundi going all in with Banishment, Ruination of Cities there, just trying to deal as much damage and get rid of those Marauder Horsemen as quickly as he can. Pretty interesting. Little whip flash there. Nice Apotheosis response. The Star Chamber Guardians didn't actually lose any unit models from that Lash of Slaanesh, so this is pretty strong here. You can just heal them right back up, and that percentage-based heal on that high HP infantry is going to be quite strong. Pterodons also chasing, routing Marauder Horsemen off the map is also a decent play. I mean, cost-wise, that's 1-for-1, the same cost. So here we go, though. Azazel diving in. Going to get countercharged by Mazdamundi here. The Soul Grinder should be able to outtrade the Solar Engine no problem. Solar Engine definitely needs to come back and pull across this formation here and just let the Soul Grinder fight the Temple Guard. But right now, the Temple Guard are not super involved. Yeah, it looks like Solar Engine trying to get away there. We'll keep it in close so we can see kind of the pathing and the positioning of these Temple Guard. They are able to hold back the Fiends, but it looks like the Soul Grinder is going to be able to punch through and get behind them and continue to pressure that. Solar Engine, Azazel, of course, easily can get up in the air and reposition and fly around and drop that Bastillodon there. Mazdamundi, though, with plenty of HP, gets in here, does a nice little attack. Unfortunately, his stats aren't that high, so unless he's charging, he's really not going to be dealing that much damage, but we'll see. Temple Guard, for the time being, holding out, and yeah, Devoted Marauders probably trading very cost-effective. Let's check the value. They're almost paid themselves already, just fighting Temple Guard there. And granted, the Temple Guard are quite focused on these units of Slaanesh here, the high-value targets. I'm not sure. I don't know how this is going right now. Balance of power is heavily in the Lizardmen's favor, which I don't really understand, but I guess just since Slaanesh lost so much horsemen, these Fiends also got a nice in and out here. Didn't take too much damage. Coming back around to try and get a decent surround, but they are saturated in a lot of anti-large infantry right now. As soon as those Saurus and Temple Guards start to get attacks, they should start to smash those Fiends fairly quickly, but let's see here. Mazdamundi's physical resistance from Guardian not really contributing a lot. I mean, I guess it kind of helps. Oh, look at that Ruination of Cities. Oh, man, that was some beautiful, juicy contact there. Dealing with those Devoted Marauders. The Hellstriders also still fighting, and Soul Grinder took a lot of damage in that engagement, just getting hit by the Temple Guards and whatnot. But nice use of the Hellstriders here. The Pterodons really need to come back and bail this out here, get that Solar Engine back online potentially, especially with Mazdamundi's healing. There's quite a bit of potential left there with the ammunition and whatnot, but he is instead choosing to continue to heal the Star Chamber Guardians, which I actually think is definitely the right call at this point. They're going to be one of the main components of grinding down all of this. You know, the Hellstriders and whatnot. Like, yeah, sure, Hellstriders can chase the Solar Engine off. They can clean up the rest of the army, but as long as you've got Mazdamundi with the healthy Star Chambers, they're not going to do anything to those Temple Guard, right? So Mazdamundi getting a little over-aggressive perhaps here. The Soul Grinder doesn't immediately come to punish him, instead of kind of pathing around, taking a hit from the Solar Engine right to the face, and that blinded debuff, just so important. Down to 12 melee defense means that, I mean, these Saurus are almost guaranteed hits if they do any attack animations on that Soul Grinder. Another beautiful Apotheosis there. The Soporific Musk, pretty good against Lizardmen, given their kind of low-ish stats in general, but not enough to save the Soul Grinder as it starts to get dragged down by the Lizardmen. So, really nice play by Voidlils, I have to say. Beautiful to see the Lizardmen push back Slaanesh. I mean, I guess in the lore, Lizardmen don't really have any conception of sexuality whatsoever, right? So it makes sense that they would not be falling to Slaanesh. And yeah, looks like they're just putting the finishing touches there on the balance of power as Azazel starts to take some massive hits. Mazdamundi so thick at this point, well over 8,000 HP left. And yeah, some nice rocks getting dropped here, getting those rocks off on those Hellstriders. Probably not in the way that they would have liked, but there you go. The Lizard Box does prevail. And that's an interesting one. Love to see it. Love to see it. Oxyottl's mostly useless in multiplayer. Well, in comparison to somebody like Mazdamundi, who is one of the best lords in multiplayer, even still. Yeah, Kairos, Lithanar, Scrag, another removing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Lash is mostly to trigger the passive, which is why you don't want to overcast it. You just cast as many times as you can. Acquiescence for the same purpose, right? These two, Winds of Magic cost is the same, so you can just alternate casting one or the other. Keep them on cooldown as much as you can to get that map-wide melee attack buff, but AC Maiden's not out of this. He's going to try and rally his forces together at this point. But the problem is, the longer that he waits, the more Mazdamundi's just going to be able to heal his Temple Guard here. Like, another Apotheosis coming in. And keep in mind, because Mazdamundi has Greater Arcane Conduit, his heals literally heal for more. You know, so, like, him just spamming Apotheosis on his Temple Guard is going to be quite strong as the game goes on. Slaanesh doesn't have any way of healing here. This is one reason, although you're not really going to be wiping a lot of units out, so Nikari's conditional healing probably isn't going to be that great here, but maybe you take the Keeper of Secrets. Oh, looks like Voidlull's been dropped. But yeah, that was a victory for the Lizardmen. Oxyottl's strong if you're a good player. Against certain factions, he's just really hard to keep operational. Like against Slaanesh, for example, right? Like the speed and the mobility, it's just tough to keep him shooting. Against more missile-oriented factions, though, where you can kind of try and take initiative and use him to pick other missile factions apart, he's very strong for that purpose, I would say. At least kind of my viewpoint on him. But yeah. Yeah, Voidlull's there. Man. Nice build construction. Mazdamundi just not caring at all against everything that Slaanesh brought here. And I mean, once the Soul Grinder went down, even the Soul Grinder by itself probably doesn't win against Mazdamundi just because of the difference in HP, healing and whatnot. Especially with the Temple Guard support and just continuing to heal those Star Chamber Guardians. But let's see here. I'm not really sure. We've still got AC Maiden in. Let's check. Check to see what's going on. Bear with me just 1 second, guys. We'll be right back. Okay, so I think we're gonna give the game to Void Lulz. I've tentatively put it up on the scoreboard that way, but let's see. Getting the next game ready, so just bear with me 1 second, guys. We'll get things going once again. Okay, I am returned. We've got the faction picks locked in. We've got the map locked in. Tom Bombadil, I would say try restarting Steam if you're having issues. Often, if the servers go down, you'll have to restart Steam to be able to reconnect for whatever reason. But, I mean, these guys are able to get in, and I'm still in this lobby, so it should be working. And these guys are just getting ready here. Looks like Lord Master of Sotek just announced another tabletop-style tournament where you build a list and then bring it against all comers. I think I might try and sign up for that. Put together a fun list. Maybe do a little Empire list or, you know, some Bortonia or something. Something tasteful. No, you know, filthy Slanesh or anything like that. Let's see here. Dark Elves versus Vampire Coast, though. Should be an interesting matchup. Historically, this is a matchup that has favored Vampire Coast over Dark Elves, in my opinion, at most points in history. But that may be different now, with Dark Elves receiving so many buffs and having different ways to approach this matchup. But Coast also got some buffs. I mean, the leadership buffs, explosion damage changes, even though they didn't get that many direct buffs, some of them do actually apply. I mean, animated hulks for 500 cost with that much weapon strength for that little cost, it just, again, means that you can take quite a few of them, and even if they don't all pay out, they can pay for themselves very well against something like Black Ark Corsair, or, you know, whatever heavy armor unit, or even light armor units. I mean, certainly just that high DPS output for the cost makes them an attractive option against Dark Elves if you want to go for a more melee-oriented approach. So, like, I would probably say, for me in this matchup, I'd take kind of an aggressive build with bombers, hulks, and, you know, just a regular zombie frontline, lots of bats and dogs, and then probably a pistol admiral. Maybe I would take something else, but it's hard to say. Let's see what they've got. Let's see what they got. Ooh, shades with dual hand weapons. Interesting. Guess that's just allows you to take more shades, which makes sense. Got 2 shades dual hand weapons and 4 regular shades. A couple of dark riders, with shields, and a bunch of bleak swords. So a fairly straightforward build. I actually really like the pick of the shades here. Pick of the shades. You could even argue for a max build where you take like 6 shades and 4, maybe 4 or 5 dark shards with shields. It might not actually work, but yeah. Here we see a build similar to what I had envisioned. You've got bombers, you've got some hulks, you got 4 bombers, 3 hulks, we've got a couple of pistol mobs, or handgun mobs even. Couple of depth guard, 3 depth guard, it looks like, some scurvy dogs, bomber bats, Pistol Admiral on foot. And that's basically it. So, yeah, I mean, very much a rush-oriented build. Get up in the face, throw some grenades, rush with the Hulks. On the flip side here, I've got a Sorceress of Shadows looking for Pit of Shades. Even still, after the nerfs, Pit of Shades is still quite good. So definitely look for that here. I might have taken Chill Wind, but it's hard to say what's going to be the most efficient. Bleak Swords, got the Shades spreading around already, and the Dark Riders here, so let's see how they get on. Cheap mass is huge for Coast. Yes, definitely. Definitely. And, I mean, the Bombers were already a staple of Vampire Coast play for quite some time. They are ever-present at now, but especially on that first go, that extra 30% explosive damage means that first volley in particular that these guys throw just does such an insane amount of damage. Extra powder on them. That first grenade toss really, you can somehow block that first grenade toss. I mean, that is a 30% damage decrease, but oh man, the bomber bats already getting discovered and discovering Shades the hard way. They're going to eat some of that scatter shot fire. It doesn't really do a lot given they're kind of towards the max edge of that range. A little bit of a lag there. Apologies about that, guys. Over here, this unit of bat bombers gets more damage done to them, certainly. Here in the center, I mean, that's just so many bombers, right? You've got the 2 bombers in the air and the bombers on the ground as well. Shades are going to be very vulnerable to all of that, and given the Shades' high cost in comparison to a lot of other things here, man, something is really chugging in my game in this. Not really sure what that is. It's going to be tricky. The handguns also teeing off on the Sorceress there is tough, but the Master is going to move in, try and see off those deck dropper bombers. One unit already pretty much down. We've got the Bleak Swords moving up here. Oh man, that's painful. These Dark Riders getting caught without getting a charge off. They're going to get overwhelmed by the doggos there. Here, we're seeing a Pit of Shades just used to try and punish a single bomber. Again, anything you can do to get rid of those bombers tactically, one by one, is the best way for victory here. The Shades also staying well clear of those bombers. The one air bomber does manage to get into range, but mostly gets taken out by a Shade scatter shot there. Some of the overshots even landing in this engagement over here as well. Dark Riders managed to hold their leadership together for a little bit of time, but try and keep the depth guard away. Keep the Bleak Swords away from the depth guard if they can. I don't know. They might have to meat shield in there a little bit, but oh, these Dark Riders, they had an opportunity to charge those bombers. Instead, they've got an attack order on the deckhands there, the melee deckhands, and that means, oh, the humanity of the unit's just gonna get deleted in a single volley. These other 2 bombers are almost in range now. They're pressuring forward, so Shades are gonna have to continue to retreat. The dogs, though, on the side here against the Dark Riders is actually a pretty critical engagement, because now the Vampire Coast can sweep up and around, continuously pressure. I mean, the animated Hulks by themselves already have the speed to consistently catch the Shades there, but the bombers, even after having taken so much damage, are still so dangerous to the Shades. Value damage-wise, it's such an inefficient trade for the Dark Elves side. One of the reasons why this matchup historically has been so tough, but even still, the damage output is very real. They're able to mostly deal with those handguns. Unfortunately for them, the handguns will continue to fire even while crumbling. Just the nature of Undead right now. A little bit of feebling foe here on these dogs, just to nerf their stats. The Shades should be able to fight them off, no problem. Shades melee stats is kind of their one saving grace at this point, although certainly Depth Guard are going to be a strong enough unit that they cannot beat. But let's see here. Murderous Prowess pops off. It's going to help somewhat. Only will help so far, though. You're getting exploded by bombs. And looks like the Grenadiers are moving in to deal with this unit of Bleak Swords. We'll keep their health bar there in the distance. And oh, yep. Bye-bye, Bleak Swords. Absolutely brutal zombie bombers there. And the Dark Riders also charge in. A little bit of a rear charge on these Hounds. Try and finish off their leadership. But again, that crumbling just really doesn't do much. Most of these units could functionally be considered unbreakable. Even with the crumbling damage factored in. I mean, you're going to at most take like maybe a couple hundred crumbling damage over the course of the game. So here it's definitely proving to be pain in the side of the Dark Elves, as like these, you know, zombies are able to hold up these shades to get shot by the handguns. This unit of 31 handguns manages to stabilize their leadership. They're not even taking crumbling damage anymore. So there you go. Void Lulz, man, nasty Vampire Coast build here. And oh, the Wind of Death. Oh, the cheeky Wind of Death just to finish things off. Vampire Coast is so strong right now, and although I do like the build here from AC Maiden, the shades are a decent enough idea. At the end of the day, they still just get bombed out like everything else. And if we look at the value here, despite all the resources poured into them, the zombie bombers are still able to get the work done that they needed to. Certainly the dogs over on this side were also MVPs, pulling in quite a bit of value and just beating back those Dark Riders. Tactically, Depth Guard, they had lots of screens for them, so they didn't eat all the armor-piercing missiles of the Shades. That was enough at the end of the day to keep them safe. And I almost wonder, you know, the Bleak Swords did some things here, but maybe replace a couple of them with spears, and then, again, maybe you just take more Dark Shards with shields? I don't really know. The shields don't really help against explosive damage, so it's hard to say. But anyway, update the scoreboard now. Void Lulz goes up 2-0 on the series. Can he close it out on this next one? The final map of the series is out of position there. That's going to bother me. I don't know why it's way over there. Okay, Summer Song. Final map of the series. So there you go. Yep. All right. Let them get their faction picks worked out. I'm going to go grab a drink of water, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I am returned. Looks like Void Lul is gonna finish up another champ pick of Khorne. Perhaps. See, I would definitely enjoy that. Khorne's one of those factions that you might think like they're beginner friendly, and in many ways they are, but at the same time they're kind of not. You got to know like what you're doing in terms of distraction, rush technique, like specific unit interactions, what to take in what situation. I mean, they certainly can play into a few different styles. They can kind of play more hit and run, more of a traditional rush. If you want to play more elite-oriented builds, Khorne's a great faction for that. Really interesting, but let's see what they can do in terms of response picks. Khorne has quite a few good matchups, quite a few bad matchups. Generally, I would say they're weak to getting kited, but, you know, Khorne does have enough mobile swarm of their own that they can kind of counter-kite fairly well. The lack of abilities does kind of haunt them in that way, because they don't have a lot of ways of slowing down their opponents. But they can definitely attack. Yeah, I mean, it's Khorne, so there you go. Next up, on the Summer Song map, AC Maiden, bring it back. Oh, is he going Tzeentch then? Tzeentch versus Khorne. Get a nice monogod matchup. Be interesting. All right, all right. Hopefully y'all are enjoying yourselves out there. I've been recently watching some shows, not too much honestly. Like, I haven't watched Ring of Power, haven't watched House of Dragons. I've been watching Andor though, which is very good, I have to say. Somebody who, like, Rogue One is definitely my favorite Star Wars movie. I personally am a big fan of Andor, that grittier, darker tone. I think it's pretty interesting, and the acting is incredible. Just the cinematography, the way it's shot, cut, edited together, the music, I think just overall really fantastic production. And I'm picky, I'm gonna be honest, I am pretty picky. Like, I mean, I liked certain parts of Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi. Mandalorian I obviously enjoyed, but I mean, there were parts of Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi that I enjoyed, but certainly those shows had their problems. Not anywhere. I mean, they don't hold a candle to Andor in terms of quality, in my opinion. In terms of quality of writing and storytelling and the cinematography and everything. Rings of Power is good. Yeah, I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say it's good. I've heard some people say they haven't been able to get through it. So, I mean, my fiance and I watched the first episode, and it was alright. It was okay. It didn't really grab me and make me want to watch more. The same way that other shows have. So, yeah. It's in, like, House of Dragons, right? Like, I never really watched Game of Thrones to begin with, so it's not like I'm very invested in the franchise necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. Just, for whatever reason, it's kind of one of those things that it's like everyone tells you you should do something, like, oh, Game of Thrones is so good, you have to watch it. Oh, it's so good, you have to, and it just makes you not want to do something. That was pretty much Game of Thrones for me. It's like, for the longest time, people would tell me, like, oh, you like fantasy? You should definitely watch Game of Thrones. And, yeah, as a result, I never really watched it. And then, you know, the ending was what it was, and I felt very vindicated for not ever having invested my time into that show. So, yeah, not really that interested in House of Dragons anyway, and maybe I'll watch it eventually someday, but not something I'm rushing out to watch anytime soon. Let's take a look. Summer Song. Gonna be the map. Tzeentch versus Khorne. And already, I love the Khorne build here. Valkia. Hunt. Expensive Lords in the air. She's anti-large, so she's going to be great. I think the Disc Lords count as large. We'll double check that in just a minute, because I'm assuming this guy is going to be on the disc. But, yeah. Valkia AoE damage, as well as just generally very good. See how she can do here. Double Skull Cannon's also a nice pick. I kind of like this to get some long-range pressure against Tzeentch. Kind of pick away at some of their important targets. Maybe do some good single target damage. We've also got some Flesh Hounds here, some Marauders of Khorne, plenty of Furies and Horsemen, like 3 Horsemen, 2 Flesh Hounds, one Flesh Hound and 2, no, that's right, 2 Flesh Hounds, 2 Warhounds, 3 Furies, and then the 2 Skull Cannons. Interesting, very, very interesting. I love this kind of wide skirmish swarm type build from Khorne. Definitely a fun way to play. And something similar from Tzeentch. I mean, it's kind of another wide, again, mobile skirmish type build. We've got the Disco Lord, we've got Furies, Screamers up in the air, some Horsemen of Tzeentch, and some Marauders, Infantry, some Pink Horrors to contribute in that missile fight. And the Weird Spawn as well, which are just really a great ROR. That physical resistance helps quite a bit. I mean, it's not going to help against the demonic units, obviously, but it will help against warriors and marauders and whatnot, so it's nice to have, certainly. They also cause terror, which is, again, very good. Khorne units have frenzy, which gives them immune to psychology while it's active, but it drops at low leadership, which is exactly when they would terror out anyways, so there you go. Let's see what the Skull Cannons prioritize in terms of shooting. I would probably shoot the Marauder Horsemen, honestly. You can kill their models and keep their barrier damage off, so if they do end up skirmishing with your own Marauder Horsemen, the Khorne Horsemen won't lose out in terms of damage value done. I mean, the barrier is going to eat some of those initial shots, and that is often, like a skirmish cav versus skirmish cav, 2 high-level players, often is the deciding factor, like those first couple of volleys, whether you can get good damage or not and start to tilt things in your favor. Barrier specifically in that situation is pretty good, but yeah, blue fire really not going to do much. I don't think Skull Cannons have fire resistance, but they do have Gore Feast, so it can just get into melee and regenerate. Obviously does have spell resistance, as do all Khorne demons, but as long as it's continuing to fight in melee, it can take advantage of that Gore Feast. Here we've got Khorne Furies on Tzeentch Furies. And the Khorne Furies should win. I mean, number one, they get the charge. Doesn't look like the Tzeentch Furies actually got a charge off here. And then, of course, the Frenzy does mean that the Khorne Furies just have more stats, especially weapon strength, which is super important in a fight like that between 2 light units. The Disc Lord tries to drop on the Skull Cannon, which is just incredibly risky. He is maybe going to get caught on the ground here. Oh man, the throwing axes doing a little bit of barrier damage here. I guess it's not that risky at the end of the day. He ends up actually using up a lot of ammunition there. Maybe a couple of volleys, maybe not that much ammunition at the end of the day, but really, Voidlul's should swing back now with Valkia and try and cut off his avenue of escape to get back to his own forces. If she had reacted in time, maybe she could have got an engagement against the Tzeentch Disc Lord here, but let's see. Got some Marauder Horsemen just kind of hanging around the flanks here, picking away at the Marauders of Khorne, really not doing a lot. Nice shot from that Skull Cannon there. Skull Cannon, it is a cannon at the end of the day, which means it's going to be great against cavalry, as cannons always are in Total War games. Even, you know, since like Napoleon and Empire Total War way back in the day. The best use case for cannons was for shooting at cavalry. Khorne infantry are going to advance here. I'm not sure if they should. I think maybe Khorne should try and keep fighting this kind of mobility game. They're winning out on skirmish value right now, able to isolate a bunch of units, but like this is a ton of value that's away from this main fight that would probably need to stay and help to make this, you know, a decisive victory here. But let's see. Certainly the Tzeentch Marauders, Khorne Marauders just fighting straight up. Not really sure who would win that. I haven't tested it 1v1, but I like the chances of the Khorne Marauders, although their lower defense might come back to haunt them in that type of situation. Got some mobile pressure here. Fleshhounds eating volleys in the face. It's going to be pretty painful, but a nice spear Slopnir just wrecks one Zinch Marauder outright. Does some barrier damage to the weird spawn, but still ends up being a bit of a wash in that engagement at the end of the day. Valkia now being threatened by a lot of Screamers, and I think Shiban honestly just takes that engagement, though, up in the air. I mean, we'll see. That is a lot of Screamers fighting with the Disc Lord, but yeah, all this mobility for Khorne being so far away is not great, because look at this. Turn and focus fire. All of this mobility could be occupying these pink horrors so that they are not able to fire in and just wreck this one Fleshhound. These Furies as well here. The Khorne Furies taking a lot of damage from that range fire. So a painful experience, but certainly the getting back to the really important stuff, Valkia was able to escape from the Disc Lord there. And the Skull Cannon also trying to stay away from those Screamers. So value trade-wise, Zinch is kind of able to get back in it, which is why, like, all of this Khorne stuff chasing those Marauder Horsemen out into the distance. I mean, I guess that's going to remove army value from the field, which doesn't reflect in this gold damage value. Which a little bit, you know, kind of makes that stat slightly misleading, but Zinch is definitely taking a lot of damage here. As long as Valkia stays alive, obviously, and she has enough kind of mobile skirmish, should be okay, but I am worried about this kind of just defensive position of pinks here. All this mobile fast attack is going to take a lot of missile damage, and they've lost enough now that I'm not sure if they can get a nice kind of presence here, but we'll see. Right now, Valkia is continuing to vanquish some Screamers. Marauders catching some Marauders, doing a good job fighting there. Skull Cannon, clean swing and a miss, as the Furies try and catch out. Ooh, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting play, kind of forcing the blob of these light units around the Disc Lord, allowing the pink horrors to shoot in, but now you're a little bit of a risk of getting isolated here, as these pink horrors all of a sudden are kind of out on their own, away from the rest of the Zinch army here. Khorne Voidlul's doing a good job of repositioning, but Valkia could just go straight for the Disc Lord here, mass collapse on these pinks, try and take them out in a big hurry, but it's super risky. You know, all these light units can get killed in a huge hurry, so right now, Voidlul is just being very patient with his Skull Cannons, taking his time, making sure he uses ammunition, try and play smart, and fight those isolated units where he can. Like out here, some more Marauders taking an absolute journey into the Shadow Realm there. And Skull Cannon continuing to fire. Looks like these Furies might be moving to intercept. They could have probably got a good interception there, hard to say. Again, just playing very conservative, not really wanting to take engagements unnecessarily here. Wasting ammunition of the pinks. This other force here moving to potentially try and isolate and just start to collapse on this flank here. Oh, but look at the Disc Lord. Ooh, he's fast enough to get away from Valkia, right? Yeah, he is a good 10 speed faster. So even with Valkia hitting her charge animation, it's still going to be tough for her to actually catch him at the end of the day. So let's see. Will this Marauder actually get chased off? That's pretty painful. I mean, it's not that big of an issue. It's just a cheat Marauder at the end of the day, but they do have quite a bit of HP left, and leadership is recovered. They're just not rallying because of unit chasing them. And the Skull Cannons having a little bit of accuracy issues. That is one problem of taking a lot of single entity artillery, and I don't know. I think Voidlul's had AC Maiden right where he wanted him, but he let off the gas a little bit in sending that huge mobile force. Like, really chase those routing units off. He really just needed to send the Warhounds by themselves, and he could have brought all these Marauder Horsemen in while he still had that big concerted melee push going on. Try and occupy those pink horrors, get on them in melee. I mean, certainly high damage charge anti-infantry of the Marauder Horsemen would allow them to get good damage on the pinks, but right now they're going to get shot by the pinks, lack of a better term, which is obviously not going to be great for them. But let's see if they're able to pull away before those volleys really come in and make too much of a difference. Nice dodging over there for that Skull Cannon, dodging some more of the pink fire there, and these Marauder Horsemen do get caught, so Boilo still not making too many mistakes other than that big kind of misdeployment there earlier. But, yeah, the presence of Pink's shooting is tough to deal with at this point. Both the skull cannons are out of ammunition, which means they need to move into melee to start to regenerate both health and ammunition. Right now, the Pinks here trying to focus on the Warhounds. I'd probably be focusing... Oh, man, look at that mass javelin fire. Good focus straight into the weird spawn there, but then the response from the Pinks is going to be devastating against the unshielded Khorne horsemen. Khorne Furies up in the air, though, do manage to catch the Screamers, and it looks like, as a result, the Skull Cannons are able to get into the Pinks without too much interference, which is super important. They'll be able to just occupy the Pinks in melee, and, again, generate both health and ammunition. Here, these Warhounds chasing Marauder Horsemen, so Voidlul's getting into combat here finally, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure he has enough left to finish it off at this point. Let's see. Khorne Horsemen looking like they want to engage here, but instead just trying to use up all of their ammunition first. That's painful. This one Skull Cannon does eventually get soloed out by the Disclord here and the Marauder Horsemen. A little bit of a spell placement there as well. Takes out the one Marauder, but he did manage... Warhound. But he did manage to get the Pinks, and he's gotten rid of the Marauder Horsemen as well. These guys are still neck and neck in terms of value. I mean, Voidlul's got a little bit of a lead here, but the Screamers drop, so slowly but surely, Khorne's kind of picking away at these units on the side, but they're taking losses in the meantime, and a few key units, like especially the Weird Spawn here, being so healthy is a problem. They're a pretty big presence. Warhounds countercharging into the Marauder Horsemen there. These Marauder Horsemen, oof, they took a big volley from those Pinks, despite the Pinks being engaged by the Marauders in melee. I mean, obviously, they're going to continue fighting, but looks like another spear slopped near, and some damage to the Pinks also forces them to move, more importantly, as the Screamers continue to eat throwing axes to the face. Nice isolation here. These Pink Horrors get pulled out of position as they had a missile attack order, and this is what I'm talking about for Khorne Horsemen. They are so good in melee as a hybrid unit. They're going to be able to mop up, especially 2v1, those Pink Horrors in a big hurry. I mean, even without the throwing in melee bug, which is definitely helping them in that situation. Voidlul's, again, getting back in the driver's seat now in terms of army damage value. He's gotten a few very important picks here. The Skull Cannon also still alive out in the distance, can kind of team up with some of these other units, try and do some anti-infantry damage here, and unfortunately the Weird Spawn really haven't contributed much. The best thing they could do at this point is just stand by the Disclord and try and mirror whenever Valkia comes on the ground to try and trap her there, but the throwing axe is doing exactly what they should, which is concentrate their damage and try and get as much done against the Weird Spawn at a distance as possible. Valkia is now going to charge in, though, and start to use her anti-large against the Weird Spawn. Maybe we'll see a little rear charge from these Fleshhounds as well. Not really sure. Uses her Demon Shield there to prevent herself from taking any damage. But, a few more throwing axes. Looks like we're going to have the army ability Bombardment from Tzeentch. Might actually deal some friendly damage. I'm not sure about this. Let's keep the health bars up. Oh, no, it hits Valkia for a huge chunk. And that might be enough to actually turn the balance of power as Valkia now gets attacked by the Disclord. The Marauder Horseman probably should just charge into melee at this point to try and screen Valkia, make sure she can get back up in the air and not lose her leadership. But, yeah, if she can get back up into the air and fight the Disclord 1v1, I think she would still win, even with the massive difference in HP. It's hard to say, but, I mean, the Disclord certainly fairly low HP, not that great of stats, does count as large, so her bonus versus large would obviously apply there, but, yeah, that little gambit to catch her doesn't quite pay out at the end of the day, and it looks like the Marauder Horsemen are able to get some good lanes here. Ooh, little magic missile there, mostly dodged, still took some damage, but the Weird Spawn are pretty much done for at this point. So yeah, I would say at this particular point in time, the best thing for Khorne to do is just mass charge from all directions, get those cavalry in there especially, and then yeah, drop Valkia in to start to attack the Sorcerer Lord. And just a couple of hits on the Sorcerer Lord should start to significantly equalize the balance of power. But look at this, AC Maiden saving that Chaos Spawn summon from the Sword of Change here until the very end of the game. He's had that in his back pocket the whole time, just waiting for Valkia to jump down onto the ground. And now he's trapped some Marauder Horsemen, so it's real hard for Voidlils to win at this point, because he would have to, at the very least, wait until the Chaos Spawn are out. This one Marauder is also still pretty healthy, and then the Disclord himself, basically untouched at this point, is a huge problem. So I just don't see how Voidlils can potentially win this one. He is going to move to engage, try and fight these Marauders out in the periphery, still fulfill the attacking rule, and it's just smart to get rid of those isolated units if you can, prevent them from coming back to contribute. In the meanwhile, he's got, what, 20 seconds plus left on the summon timer here for these spawns. So, AC Maiden's got to be careful not to get too cute and try and do too much here. I mean, certainly if the Disclord gets caught by Valkia, that's going to be a big problem. He hard lands the Disclord there in his spawn, and is going to, just keep him close by, basically, close by the weird spawn. But it looks like the summon spawn dropped, and all of a sudden Khorne's back in business. We get a big mass charge here. Skull Cannon getting in, and oh no, another bombardment from Tzeentch here. Demon Shield being used. Will it be enough? The timing, yes, it does prevent the damage entirely from that army ability, which is quite good. The question is, this one healthy Marauder unit, will they do enough? Let's see. I'm going to keep the health bars up as Valkia fights the Sorcerer Lord. She managed to get his barrier offline. Ooh, a nice point blank shot from the Skull Cannon straight into those Marauders, and the Marauders all of a sudden want to rout. Their leadership just gives up as they're attacked by the Skull Cannon. This unit of Marauder Horsemen as well gets that Horn of Khorne. They probably should just attack this Marauder infantry at this point. Valkia drops down once again. It's so close, guys. AC Maiden absolutely fighting for his life in this tournament, but the leadership of his units is dropping fast. The Marauder infantry actually rout here. The Horn dogs are going to come back from rout and be able to actually clean that unit up. Another point blank shot from the Skull Cannon. And just like that, things were looking so dicey for Khorne. Almost lost it to to army losses there at the end, but the Disclord now facing his fate against Valkia. What a bloody, brutal affair. Man, very interesting game, as both players kind of played it super patiently, trying to not make mistakes, but at the end of the day, Voidlils is able to prevail, and what a wild game. I never thought I'd see the Khorne kite, high-level Khorne kite versus Tzeentch, but I guess that's where we're at right now. Valkia doing a great job, 2,300 damage value on her. The Skull Cannons, although they didn't pay for themselves, I do like the pick just as kind of an additional pressure unit, kind of distraction piece. Army damage value-wise, because they chased off so much, I would imagine that a lot of stuff is not going to end up paying for itself, but certainly the Marauder Horsemen of Khorne are MVPs. Definitely, if used appropriately, they are like the best of the best in terms of skirmish cav, because Marauder Horsemen are already some of the best skirmish cavalry in the game. These guys' melee potential just makes them, some of the best cavalry in the game, period. Chaos Furies also did a nice job here. The Warhounds, the cheap Warhounds with Frenzy and Magic Resistance makes them quite good as well. And then the Khorne Marauders are just kind of here. On Tzeentch's side, I like the pick of the Screamers on the one hand, but I also kind of don't. I think it'd be better to just go with more Furies. Hard to say, but certainly the Tzeentch Horsemen also contributed quite nicely. The Disclord able to stay alive until the end. That final gambit of the Spawn Summon almost brought it back, but wasn't quite enough at the end of the day. And with that, Voidlils is going to take a clean 3-0 sweep, I believe, of the whole series. Yeah, so there you go, guys. Congratulations to Voidlils. Big thanks. Tzeentch classic OP in land battles. I know, right? Just classic OP losing to Khorne in land battles. Big thanks to went in for organizing this GGX clan and all that jazz. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are the best. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. Bye-bye.